What lenses do I own as a full-time freelancer? I do photo and video work. Owning your own gear is important because then you can move fast. If you're always relying on renting, if you need to have a shoot today, well, what are you gonna do if you can't get access to that rental? First lens we're gonna talk about, and it's on my camera 99.9% of the time, that might be an exaggeration, but it's on my camera most of the time, is the Canon RF 24-70 f2.8. Why did I choose the 24-70 over the 28-70? Well, it comes down to one thing: price. I'm not gonna lie, whenever I was looking into it, I just could not justify paying an extra $2,000 just for 0.8 more in aperture. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yes, it's a crazy nice lens, it's super sharp, but to me, it's not worth it. This is the Canon 24-70. In what situations do I use this in? Interviews. It's perfect for interviews. You can get a wide interview, you can get a tighter interview. I also use it for events. It covers all focal lengths, so whatever you really need, it'll work. You won't need to worry about switching lenses over and over again. Next, we're gonna talk about the 16-35. Now, this is a lens that I used all the time whenever I was starting out. Actually, my second EF lens that I ever owned, but my first ever one that I bought from Canon. So it was a big moment for me. My first one was the 24-105 f4, which is actually on my camera right now. I would have the 24-70 on, but I need to use it to show in this video, so it's just not an option. You need a nice wide angle. A good alternative to this is the 17-40 f4 lens. So you lose 1 millimeter in focal length, but it's really not that big of a deal because you will never actually notice that. Whenever you need an ultra wide shot, you're not going to be saying, oh, I need 1 more millimeter. Pause. You're going to be saying, I need more. You maybe get the 12 millimeter. Maybe you get the 10-24. This lens right here is great, and it was my first one that I would use for events. I would use it for pretty much everything, but I never liked that the tightest you could get was that 35 millimeter. And you probably could have predicted this one, but now we're talking about the 70-200. These three lenses, the holy trinity. These are the three lenses that you're gonna want. Now you might be asking, why don't I have the RF version of either of this or the 16-35? Well, actually, I bought this after I bought my Canon EOS R, so I was already on the RF mount, but the same thing. I don't think that the RF one is that much better than the EF, and it's not worth breaking the bank for it. This is my opinion. Yes, shoot me if you disagree with me, but I just don't think that paying an extra $2,000 where you could use that money to easily buy another lens is worth getting the smaller form factor and the tiny bit of sharpness that you're gonna get back. If you're upgrading now, we'll go ahead, but if you already have the 70-200 in the EF mount, I don't think it's worth going to the RF because you will not really notice the difference. I think most of the time people are lying when they're like, oh, it's so sharp. It's so sharp. This thing's perfect. No, it's really not that big of a deal. Now we're going into number 4. I don't use this as much, but do I love having it? Boy, yes, I do. This is the 50mm f1.4. Now, this is pretty cheap. There's actually a cheaper option, which is the 1.8, which I'm sure you've heard of. The 50mm 1.8 is literally the lens that everybody wanted whenever it came out, and every beginner has had, because at $120, you can get that perfect bokeh. This one is the 1.4, so this will come in a little bit more expensive. I believe it's about $400, but it is totally worth it. It's small, so it'll always fit in your bag, and I mean, it is sharp. One thing whenever you're shooting with this 50mm 1.4, I would recommend going up to 1.6, 1.8. Autofocus is one thing you're gonna have to be worried about with this, and it's something that whenever you're talking about the RF lenses versus the EF lenses, the RF lenses autofocus are so much better. This thing kind of stinks whenever it comes to autofocus. I was actually trying to use it today for talking head videos, and every time the subject would look down at a script, it would lose the eye autofocus. That doesn't happen with my 24-70, so I ended up switching over to that. Now, honorable mention for a lens that I have kept in my kit for the longest time because I just can't seem to find a reason to sell it is this 24-105. I briefly mentioned it before, and I might make a whole video about it because this lens is truly the one that you could rock with for your entire career and not have to buy another lens ever again. Those are my opinions on lenses. That's what I think you need. That's what I think you should want and work towards buying. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.